Can we do Web 4? Let's just skip it and do Web 5. We can make it like a Marvel movie. It'll be so good. I have no idea what any of this means. I don't know. I just found out about portable chargers. Shout if you have a portable charger. They're amazing. You can charge your phone on the tube. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. I don't know about technology. I'm lost. Are you ready for your panelists?
Yeah.
I am very excited to introduce the host. This is the serious part. This is the part we need to pay attention. All right, it's the serious part. It's the panel part. I'm very excited to introduce our host. He is a very sexy man. And he has a very sexy name. His name is so sexy, it's just an acronym. It is D. This would be a good because I can do it so you know what I mean? This would be D, PJ Davis, Q, Joe, my absolute idol. Give it up for David Q, Joe.
Hello, everyone. How do you follow a comedian, first off? You don't. So I'm not going to start throwing a load of gags around there. Firstly, obviously, you've seen we've got some technical issues with the sound. So if you wouldn't mind just being a little courteous and being as quiet as you possibly can. If you do want to have a conversation whilst the panel's going on, just find yourself a quiet corner or grab yourself a drink or even wait until afterwards because there's some valuable conversation that is going to come in the next 25 to 30 minutes. Then you can talk for the rest of the night as you see fit. Some of you may recognise me, some of you may not. I have been in the realms of Web2 and Web3 for the last, Web2 for the last 25 and Web3 for the last 8. And I'm still very much a part of that with a digital legacy app that Paul, the founder of that, is here tonight. So if you ever want to talk about how to pass on your crypto to your friends and family when you get hit by a bus, then he's the man to talk to. Just a little bit about my background. I'm ex-Microsoft, right? So I spent 10 years in the dungeons in Seattle learning how to try and sell as much as we possibly could to as many consumers around the world. And transitioned into this whole world where I needed to convince the British Virgin Islands to flip to crypto rather than the US dollar. And look what happened to the BVI. So what we're going to do, obviously, is we're going to do a few little questions for you. There may be an opportunity to get your phones out and scan a code and give us a little bit of insight about who you are. Because whilst we had a shit ton of people that wanted to be here, so count yourself lucky, okay? Because there are lots of people queuing outside the door. So if you really don't want to be here, there's someone else that's desperate to come in and replace you. So can we just, should we just get the panelists up first, and then we can kick this off? So give them a little bit of a round of applause for all the panelists, and we'll get them to introduce yourself. You can sit anywhere. No, you can sit absolutely anywhere. Yeah. So why don't we do this? What we're going to do is we'll do a quick intro, and then we'll start throwing some questions to them. We'll do a bit of riffing. It's going to be completely fluid, but we're going to try and give you as much guidance and advice as we possibly can over the course of the next 30 minutes. And then we're also going to give you, Lucky Bunch, an opportunity to throw questions at this esteemed panel. It's not very often you get all of them together at once. It'll probably never happen again, to be fair. So let's kick off. Ariane, why don't you introduce yourself and tell people a little bit about what you do?
Sure. Lovely to meet you. I hope my voice is going to be okay. I'm going to try and project it as much as possible. Ariane, CMO at Flight 3, who are the agency organising Zebu Live, and also have a number of clients. I hope you're going to be there. So yeah, my background is I've been in crypto for 6 years, in marketing for 10 years. And prior to Flight 3, I was also at another Web3 marketing agency as portfolio CMO, a company called Forcefield that was backed by a VC called Kinetic Capital, Hong Kong-based investors in the Tom Foundation, and I was working with a number of projects there. I think over the last 3 years, I've probably worked and advised about 20 companies, so I've seen quite a bit. And then prior to Forcefield, I was working at a company called Mode, which was the first fintech to IPO on the London Stock Exchange on the main market, standard segment. I was part of the team that IPO'd the company. So that was a very, very interesting experience for me. because I've never IPO'd a company, let alone a crypto company. So a lot of hurdles, a lot of things to go through. And then prior to that, my background is in sports marketing, Formula One, and paddle tennis, which is the fastest growing sport in the world. So I like to go for the things that are like innovative and new. But yeah, excited to be here.
Thank you. The cat.
Awesome. Yeah, so I'm Kat, I'm the lead of Super Team UK. So this was started by the Solana Foundation a few years ago as their way of like regionally growing out across the world. They realized there's like a centralized team in New York that can't grow a decentralized protocol. So Solana being one of the leading L1 blockchains out by just a single team. We needed to find local leaders all across the world and empower them to be able to grow out their ecosystem around them. So I launched out the UK last June. So we've been going just over a year. One of the key metrics that we use to kind of measure our success is called community GDP. As I mentioned, we're not for profit, so we don't charge for anything that we do. We only focus on being able to give value out to the ecosystem, and the GDP is essentially a way to categorize that. It's the accumulation of any of the grants, any of the contracts, any of the jobs, any of the hackathon wins, all of these different ways that our community has been able to earn. So we're close to 500,000 now in the just over the first year, and we've brought together a real cool community of just over 115 core members, which is actually capped, so we can't keep going and pushing on further than that, but it creates this like inner circle for the community to gather around. And so I've been focusing a lot on being able to provide a lot of value to anybody who wants to go break in. As I said, that you really want to be able to get a job, and we have pathways for the creators, developers, researchers, marketers to be able to get into the ecosystem, or the founders who want them to be able to build out their startup. And we have a bunch of different mentors and experts and partners there to be able to help guide you along the way. We have these really cool startup competitions that we run twice a year that are activated globally to activate those. So the next one ends on Wednesday morning. And so then you do like big demo days, kind of amplify and be a real platform for anybody who wants to grow a startup from the UK into the Web3 ecosystem. Before joining all the Super Team, I actually got the flight free. And I was one of one of the early employees there because they've been growing tremendously over the last few years, and it's exciting for them to be able to see how to take all of those learnings of running campaigns with top clients, bring it into this ecosystem, and now be able to hopefully help potentially one of you late tonight or over these next few years be able to break out into the industry. Our only goal is like, how do I help you get a job? How do I help you build a successful unicorn startup? So yeah, it's exciting to be able to see what we can do.
Hi, I'm Abhishek. I'm the founder and CEO of Voice of Crypto. We are a media tech company with around 1 million active users. I have been into business I started my first company in Web2 in 2012. It was a marketing agency. I was completely anti-crypto till 2018. I wrote a book. It's a published book in which I said crypto is used by criminals. It is used for money laundering. But I wish I would have bought Bitcoin at that point of time. I realized on this stage. In 2020, I launched a project before that. It's a metaverse search engine. And yeah, that's about me. Happy to talk to all of you about Web3 and Web2.
I'm Hillary Adler. I'm a New York Jew, so honestly, if I get to a point where you can't hear me, I have no excuses. I'm the co-founder and chief commercial officer of Bitcoin OS. Bitcoin OS, to the chagrin of many actually in the space, we were the first to verify the first ZK proof on Bitcoin mainnet. And what that has opened up is essentially an operating system for any projects that want to build on Bitcoin. Now that Bitcoin has officially, I would say, gathered mass adoption across global finance. I've been in the space now for 7 years, which feels like ages. And prior to that, I had built and scaled a cannabis media startup that I sold to High Times, and I was CMO at a couple different crypto projects in between. So, gonna enjoy this panel and nice to meet you guys.
Yeah, I did tell you had an esteemed panel, so lucky you. Right, so we're going to do, I'm assuming everyone's agreeing, so we're going to just jump to, you're going to steer, are you?
Yeah, I got you.
So we're just going to find out who's in the room, and so if you can just scan the QR code, can everyone get it from there? Yeah, I was going to say, there's no detail about you, we're not storing this and selling it. There's no GDPR kicking in here. So if you can capture that QR code, if you'd be kind enough to. and then start kicking in. And the first question really is what best describes you? We're just trying to work out a little bit of a vibe of who's here, and also how much we go right down the rabbit hole, so to speak.
That's quite cool.
Okay, what is the blue one?
Newbie.
What is the blue?
It must be fun.
What is the blue one?
Yay!
Zara, what is the blue one? Normie. Normie. Okay. Okay, cool. So look, the good news is those people that are doing something else, those other people that are doing something else want to talk to you. So you need to find yourself in a room later and just tell them that you're doing something else. Right, next one. Okay, is your works focused primarily within Web2, Web3, or is it a mix of both? Are you guys? Dog work fast. Okay, nice. Any more for any more? Yeah. By the way, can you all hear us at the back? Just double checking. You all good? Thumbs up? Yeah. Okay, great. Good stuff. Okay, so we got a nice mix, which is usually what happens on CML or Crypto London. You get some people that have been around the block, they've been invested, they want to meet new friends. You've got some that want to come in and they're literally completely new to this, so they just want to understand how difficult or easy it is to get into this space. This is the best scenario for that, so you need to pass that on. Is that the sales pitch done? Right, next question. Okay, what excites you most about Web3? Oh. Okay. Right, so we've brightened your evenings up with a very multi-coloured word cloud.
Put the Lambo up there.
Come on.
Raise your hand, spin it.
Who did win Lambo? Yeah. You've not got one already? Right, okay. So look, we're just looking at some of the words here. Freedom, look, I love that one. Financial freedom, that's a great one. Riches, blimey, okay. Talent, that's a great shout. There's a lot of talent here in the room. So just money, clearly. Profit, blimey, there's a lot of people wanting to make a load of cash out of this world. Ownership, hot devs. Hot devs, is that like really good devs or like really thick devs? Or is it a combination of both? Okay. What else have we got there? Opportunity, definitely, that's kicking in quite a lot. But innovation, look, the biggest one in the middle there. So you're in a space that is changing rapidly. Whilst everyone's still talking about the realms of AI, blockchain and crypto and Web3 is still there and it's still pushing hard, which is great news. So it's good to see. Do we have any more? I think we've got one. Have we got one more? Yeah. What do you think is the biggest barrier to Web3 adoption? So rather than just voting, you've got to type something here, I think, in the app. So we'll give you a few seconds to do that. Yeah, okay. But, I mean, some of these are relatively familiar with the Web3 people in this room about crossover. Scammers, interesting one, yeah. Education and knowledge is probably a big one, right? This is how do we understand and find out more? And a lot of people are using their own wherewithal, using their own friends' network and of course the internet to find out the answers. But yeah, there's a lot of people actually interested too. If you're in the room and you're Web2, there's a lot of people that feel the same way as you, that are sort of stumbling blindly down different alleys and they still don't quite know which way to turn. It is quite confusing, but the premise of this is to try and help you on your way. Okay, good. Right. I think it's the last one, isn't it? Oh, there's one more. Okay, right. Last one. What is your primary goal for attending tonight's event? So, learn, network with us. Blimey, that we're lucky. Yeah, you can come talk to us afterwards. Network with other people in the Web3 space. Collaborate on projects. I hope that one's got lots in it. And then just pure curiosity with the cat. Okay. We're getting a relatively, yeah, I noticed that we only got 3 votes. That's probably from my friends in the room. Thank you very much, whoever you are. And the other 2 was to learn about Web3 adoption. Interesting that was quite low, or they just thought that they wanted to meet people, like-minded people that were in the space. So thank you very much for taking the time to doing that. We really do appreciate that. And it's good for you now to know what the vibe of the room is. So let's kick this thing off and let's go down a rabbit hole. You can call it whatever you like. It could be a foxhole if you like foxes. But let's just call it a rabbit hole for now. Is this whole transition of Web 2 to Web 3. Ariane, I mean, how do you explain to someone that is a complete noob about this Web 3 world without going down the whole detailed route?
Without going down the rabbit hole.
Correct, correct.
It's hard. It's actually very hard. So I think that there's many ways of describing Web3, but actually, fun fact, I looked at this morning Grok fun mode, and I asked it, what is Web3? Basically said it's the internet's equivalent of wearing a tinfoil hat to keep the pesky centralized authorities away from reading your own thoughts. And I was like, that's kind of a good way of describing it. But I think that there's a lot more sort of fundamentals to it, and I think ultimately the boring answer is that it's the next sort of generation of decentralized internet where everyone in this room, everyone in sort of society regains control of their assets, data, wealth. The way we interact as humans is going to be, and is currently being completely disrupted. The way we exchange value worldwide is, again, completely disrupted, and it's done in a transparent and self-sovereign way. So again, I can't give my mum that answer. She's like, what is that? But I guess it depends what vertical you're working in Web3, but as long as you hit this self-sovereign, transparency, freedom sort of buckets, fundamentals, I think that is working in Web3. That is what Web3 is about. But it could be many, many things. It could come in many, many shapes, colors. But ultimately, it's about preserving our identity, preserving our assets, preserving our wealth. I was reading I'm a big fan of the Milk Road, and I'm sure many people here read the newsletter. And I'm a pro user, so they were giving me like a very long report on ARK Invest and when they did their Bitcoin 2020 report. And one of the things that they highlighted was that Bitcoin is a anti-seizure asset. And what does this mean is very simple. The banks can go and take any assets away from us for whatever reason they want. And that, to me, is mind-blowing, because where's the line of you've done something right or you've done something wrong? So ultimately, it's about, again, regaining control. They're my assets. I decide what to do with them. And what we're building here, all of the products that you guys are sort of supporting and helping grow are all about that self-sovereignty, that freedom, and bringing transparency, which we definitely need. Again, I wouldn't give my mum that answer, but.
Does anyone, it was great, by the way. Can anyone else want to weigh in? Go for it.
So I'm going to take your answer. I'm going to give your answer to your mom.
Okay, good.
At the base principle, right, the difference between Web 2 and Web 3 comes down to, in Web 2, you've got centralized stacks and control of data and information. And in Web 3, it's a decentralized stack of data and in privacy, etc. So the mom answer is wine. Who here likes wine? There's 5 of you? I don't believe you. So for me, I'm a big investor in wine. It's one of the alternative assets outside of crypto that I like to invest in. And when you think about wine, for example, cases of wine from France being transported to Napa, for example, have to be kept at 13, 14 degrees Celsius the entire way. So we're talking about supply chain logistics, which is something that people in Web 2 can very easily understand. From the beginning that it leaves France to when it arrives in Napa in a Web 2 supply chain method, you have an individual who along the way checks the temperature of the wine and can write down, okay, this wine has stayed at 13 degrees Celsius. It has stayed at 13 degrees Celsius here, it has stayed at 13 degrees Celsius here. But that individual at any point in time could say, oops, you know what, it got really hot when we were going across like Texas or whatever, and the wine got to 20 degrees Celsius, but we're gonna write down that it was 13 degrees Celsius anyway. That's centralized control over information. Now, with Web3, there was a project like 4 or 5 years ago called Barcode. And essentially what it was a label that you would stick on a COVID test kit or anything basically that had to stay at temperature control. And so if you put it on a bottle of wine, every 5 seconds along its supply chain journey, it recorded the temperature. And so there was no way, even if it went up to 20 degrees Celsius, that it could be changed because of what's called a validator network. You'd have to go and convince all 100 plus random individual computers around the world to change the degree of the wine before it got to its location. So when you think about investment of wine, if you're in California and you have received a shipment from France, and this wine is a $5,000 bottle of wine, if it has gone above that temperature, it's fucking worthless, right? But you wouldn't know it in a centralized method of control because the guy could easily, or girl could easily change the temperature. But when it's being recorded to the blockchain, every 5 seconds, it's immutable. You can't take it off, nobody can change it. And so your $5,000 bottle of wine, you can be assured at the end of the day that it stayed at 13 degrees Celsius and it's at its value. So that's the
My mum
easiest
likes
way.
wine, so she'll understand that.
It's the elevator conversation. You can break it down to like 2 minutes, but.
Abhishek, if that's the case, then why aren't traditional Web2 companies adopting blockchain technology to change the process, to make it easier?
I think the biggest barrier is they think Web3 is too complicated, and probably the reason for that is because all of us have created it too complicated. They use these words like DeFi, they use these complicated words, blockchain technology, nodes, and I said, somebody was said they are a normie. So these normies get scared by all these technical terms, but if you break it up into very simple things, I think once Web2 companies know that what is the value which Web3 can add in, they will definitely move to it. But I still feel it's because of people like us who try to create it too complicated. Yes, there's still a barrier for that.
Yeah, I think what you can also find there is that there's, from the outside of our industry, there's a misconception, this idea of crypto versus blockchain. So blockchain is this new technology that's like an internet level technology that's going to affect the world. Cut to a couple decades later from now, everyone's going to use it in some sort of fashion, just like everybody uses the internet. But in like when it had this .com bubble, everyone's like, oh, it's a fad, it's a scam, it's got to go out of fashion. A couple of years later, everybody uses it. So I also think it's like a matter of that top level of where like people have just heard this idea of Bitcoin, and then they've heard this rug scam, and they've heard this NFT that sold for 20 million, and they hear all of these like headline images, and what they're hearing, the narrative, the image that they're creating in their head of this entire industry is this idea of crypto. Crypto is speculative, crypto is this magic money, crypto isn't real. But what they're missing is this whole fact of the only reason why you have any of these conversations ever happening is because you have this Bitcoin, this blockchain technology. Started with Bitcoin has now evolved into this entire beautiful ecosystem where what I love is that so many different people from so many different walks of life have come into this industry. Just like, because it will affect so many different industries. Like I spoke to doctors, to lawyers, to engineers, to people in the military, like everybody from so many walks of life have come into this space. And that makes this Web3 ecosystem beautiful, and it's an amazing space to be a part of. We're at the frontier of tech, at this technology called blockchain, and now we get the opportunity to roll it out and give it to more and more people, and we haven't necessarily seen huge adoption from either like big enterprises or even your small local shop. It's because it still takes time for that technology to develop. You know, it takes time for dev shops to get up really skillful so they can offer enterprise packages to big companies that are coming through. It takes the PR to switch away from crypto to blockchain for them to be able to invest into it and convince their shareholders this is something smart to be able to do. And it takes all of these different pieces coming together, but then allow us to be able to open up this Web3 ecosystem across. And that little PR distinction between crypto and blockchain, I think would be one really cool flip that will now allow people to start seeing our entire industry in that new light. And that current image that they have in their mind of like crypto as a scam will get switched to blockchain as innovative.
So on that note then, aren't there really decent examples of the transition between Web 2 and Web 3 so we can stop talking about those words and we can actually just showcase the technology in action?
Yeah.
Are there
I actually saw someone respond, no use cases for, I wonder if that person can own to their vote. Tell me why they think there are no use cases. No, they're shy away now.
they'll come see you after.
Yeah, I don't, it's true that we don't, sorry? No, left. It's true that we don't have enough use cases. I think we definitely need more. We are in build phase, whether we like it or not, we're still building constantly. So the use cases are going to be limited. However, there are many out there, and I'm sure you guys have plenty of examples, because by the sounds of it, got lots of founders in the room, and a lot of people working between Web 2 and Web 3, which is, I think, where a lot of the use cases lie at the moment. An example that comes to mind is a company I work with very closely, called Alchemy. Alchemy is a decentralized ad exchange, blockchain-based. They are working and competing against the big publishers out there, basically taking massive market share away from them, reducing. How many people actually know about programmatic advertising in this room? A few. Okay, great. So programmatic advertising, it's been around for 30, 40 years, very archaic systems, old systems, networks, everything. There's so many middlemen in that industry, everyone taking a cut. Everyone. And it's all opaque. No one can see that you're actually taking a cut. So big companies, big household names right now are doing this audit on how much money is spent on these middlemen. And they're finding out that 50% and 90% of their advertising budget is going to middlemen. It's not going to their ads, which is crazy. And so what Alchemy is doing is, through blockchain, bringing this transparent layer, you can see everything. So they're cutting the fees by like 90%, which is a huge use case for some sort of Web 2 companies using Web 3 without actually realizing that they're using Web 3. Many other use cases that I am particularly aware of, like in the transport, health industries, but that's just one example. So yes, we are lacking examples and we need to build more, but there's already a lot out there.
I think a cool industry that's coming out of blockchain is this idea of deepin. Like, put your hands up, who's heard of deepin before? Cool, so not many people, which is good because I'm about, like, it's a really cool open space. I think it's amazing for convincing even your mum and like people outside like the Web3 ecosystem are like, why is this useful? Because deepin is just like decentralized physical networks. So one really cool one's called Helium. 5G mobile network. So everyone here probably uses like EE, Vodafone, all of these different mobile providers. How does it work? Well, essentially they just build cell towers, and cell towers then all connect to each other. That's how you're able to tap into that network. But you require a big company to set up the infrastructure, to build those cell towers all across the region. Well, with Helium, all you need is a router in your home. And it allows anybody to be able to provide coverage to the network. And now you have a full peer-to-peer network. So it's only possible on the blockchain. It's only possible if I don't have to trust you to provide your coverage to the network. And there's enough people there to then be able to contribute into it. And anybody can just buy the router. Or if you want to get extra coverage, you put a little satellite on your roof. But now it creates this beautiful way that all of us can get access to a peer-to-peer mobile network. And you said there's no middleman. There's no big company in the middle getting in the way. Helium are just the person enabling it to be able to happen. But it's a peer-to-peer run network.
And you get rewarded as well for providing that coverage.
Exactly, and that's the cool thing. We were able to like tap into new earning mechanisms. I actually think it will potentially become like a new, when you're looking at going to your investment portfolio, a new asset class to go into are these deepin devices. Because like you set it up, it's running, there you go. You're just able to then tap into how well you're able to provide opportunities at network. Another really cool one's called Hive Mapper. So Hive Mapper, that what you do is you buy a little webcam, put it in your car, so you know, like dash cars. But this time, what they're doing is they're taking that data and creating a beautiful street map view. So now they've been able to actually go faster than Google at the stage that they were growing at, because they are labeled anyone to be able to buy their dash cam, put it in their car, and where Google have like a 4-year lag, because it's Google, just one company going out recording our data, HiveMapper have a 15-day lag. Like, it is literally like when we talk about being able to say, like, for Alchemy cutting those costs down. That's what blockchain enables us to do. We can cut out a load of intermediary noise in between and be able to get a lot more efficiency out of it, as well as then rewarding everybody for their contributions, because it's all transparent. Everybody can see that you drove down this road and provided these street map views that they've now used to sell to an insurance company or to sell to this. And rather than them pocketing all the money, they've shared that with their users. And so, yeah, we are starting to see these use cases come out. We did a really cool video when we went to Breakpoint in Singapore, which is a big Solana conference, and we did a day in the life. And you can see it on our at 16UK on Twitter. And we used a bunch of different products all the way. You could order your taxi using USDC on Grab. You could be able to go to the coffee shop and use the Cast card to be able to pay for it. Like, there's a bunch of different ways that we're seeing these use cases come to fruition. And I think that's a big reason of where more people can start to get involved in the Web3 is when they can see it and they understand, oh, it makes sense for me to do this rather than this now because of all these other than additional benefits that come from it.
Hillary, any case studies or great examples?
Yeah. So not Web2, but music related. I think basically, if you get to the heart of what these two brilliant minds have said, it's this concept of ownership and cutting out the middleman. Any big Taylor Swift fans in here? There's lots of women, so I know you don't need to be embarrassed. I'm a Swiftie. Taylor Swift had to basically redo all of her albums because her record label stole her masters. And if she had done a simple thing, which is instead of depending on her record label and instead created NFTs, which by the way, NFT just stands for non-fungible token. My ring is an NFT, a concert ticket is an NFT, a piece of music that you create and distribute yourself to your community is an NFT. Eminem, Wu-Tang Clan, who I in high school one time went like Wu-Tang Gang, and they were like, no, it's Wu-Tang Clan. They have actually decided to make their new records as NFTs so that they don't have to depend on their record labels that take their money and can steal their masters. And now they can just literally send their record as an NFT to their community of fans and audiences. And then they get all of the money straight to them. They don't have to depend on Universal, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's like a very, very easy use case to understand how with blockchain technology and NFTs you can cut out the middleman and bring ownership back to yourself as an individual over the products and things you create. So
I am a business guy. I will say one of the best companies which I have seen who have done a transition is MicroStrategy. Maybe not directly with Web3, but how they have turned around the whole company, how the valuation has increased because they started investing in Bitcoin. So, I mean, I understand business and I think this is one of the best use cases in which even if not directly getting into Web3, they have made a mark, they have created so much wealth for their Web2 users as well in terms of stocks that one of the phenomenal work which I've seen.
And we're going to see a lot more of that, sort of treasury reserve assets. So the company I IPO'd, I did an IPO myself with a team. The company I worked for called Mode, we actually had 10% of our balance sheet was Bitcoin. And again, we were the first publicly listed company to actually do that. Very similar to obviously MicroStrategy. I think we might have done it before them. We might have followed the trend or we did it at the same time. But it's going to become a very, very interesting asset for that. And we're seeing obviously nation states such as El Salvador and other, maybe the US if Trump gets elected. He's very pro-crypto now, so I don't know what that guy could do. He could potentially. So it'll be interesting to see the evolution of Bitcoin as a
I am conscious that we want some questions from the audience as well, but probably one more question for these is any predictions? I mean, can you predict what happens in the next 12 months? I mean, I know you can't, you've got a crystal ball, but ideally, is there something you're seeing? Is there some momentum or some trend that's happening that may just shift this world into Web3?
From my side, because I work a lot on the ground, so I work a lot like talent, we work a lot at universities, all the way across. What I'm starting to see more now is this, like, remember I mentioned before, like the crypto blockchain? I think blockchain is starting to get wrapped up in this like emerging technology bubble, which is including like AI, quantum computing, biotech, all of these new technologies that are coming forward, blockchain's a part of that bubble, and I think that's where we'll start to see more things going, is that companies are not necessarily a crypto company or a blockchain company. I'm a company at the frontier of tech. Like, we're innovating, we're driving the space forward, and that's what the talent wants to get in with as well. Because if you look at how like VC funding works, it always goes with the narratives. So blockchain had its narrative big in 2021, AI has now come a bit more forward, and that's more a bit in the narrative. There's always going to be this next technology that's going to change the world, that's going to move the capital around. And so I think what's going to happen is that with all this convergence, all of these new technologies all coming forward at similar times, that's going to then be the bubble. And so we're going to be up here talking about, I know, it's emerging tech, and you're talking about how like AI is working on blockchain, how it's working on biotech, how it's working in all these different spaces. And that's more the way that we'll be able to see potentially Web2 people more getting into just the ecosystem, or how the ecosystem is able to grow. But it's more than just blockchain. It's this emerging tech. We're all at the frontier of tech. And you being here right now puts you early in that story.
Yeah, I think, I mean, people here in the room that are in Web3 probably already know this, but the next 6 to 12 months are going to be very much consumer apps. That's what VC portfolio companies are working on at the moment, and I think we're going to see an explosion of those. We're going to see neobank style apps offering much better features than the current neobanks that we use, Revolut, Monzo, etc. So with better UX, UI, thank God, because we need to get better at that. So I think there's going to be a massive focus, massive shift to it, and I think Solana is probably going to be a chain where a lot of that happens. So stay close to that.
I'm going to be the devil's advocate. I'm going to say I think, yeah, Solana's great, but I think we're seeing the world converge onto Bitcoin. And what we've seen is
I'm chain agnostic, okay?
I am not chain agnostic. There's one chain, and that is Bitcoin. And there's one currency out there that I trust, and that is Bitcoin. And what you're seeing now is more and more projects out there that are trying and attempting to build on Bitcoin. And what, not to shill my own project, but what we've essentially have done is created an operating system for those projects to now build on Bitcoin. So if you hold Bitcoin and you want your Bitcoin to do more, you want to earn yield on your Bitcoin, so 5%, et cetera. That's a lot more than 0.02% you're getting from Chase. Or if you want to use your Bitcoin as a collateralized asset for loans, you're going to start to be able to do that as well. A few years ago, I tried to get a loan, and the guy for a mortgage, and the guy came back and he was like, hey, you know what, sell all of your Bitcoin and come back in 6 months and we'll give you a mortgage. And I basically said, fuck you. And I've made it my mission, along with my other co-founders, to get the Bitcoin ecosystem to a point where you could use your Bitcoin as your collateralized asset for a mortgage, et cetera. And so it's building a greater economy with Bitcoin. You're already seeing, BlackRock, JP Morgan, et cetera, all of these big institutions adopting crypto via Bitcoin, $2.5 billion of inflows into Bitcoin ETFs. So that's been the driving narrative this cycle, and I think that's going to continue. And I think those real world applications you're going to see it on Bitcoin because it's gathered the mind share of trust as the most trusted currency, and now is the most trusted network. So.
Yeah, that's a fair point actually. If there's a lot of those big corporate tech companies, they are spending billions, not just in AI right now, they are shifting. I was at an AI event this morning, and the VP of Microsoft announced that they were shifting 30,000 engineers into AI and future tech. Like literally transitioning, even though these people aren't, they're developers and engineers are moving across. So you have these waves, but each one of those businesses, if you look at the Gartner Hype Cycle, where they look at the trends and analysis of the pieces of technology that are coming, you just have a look at it. Well, blockchain is big, and now it's starting to flow into those called businesses. You look at those big consultancy arms that have now had teams inbuilt that are releasing technology, acquiring businesses. So there is some momentum going on here. I just wanted to check, any more?
I think irrespective of Bitcoin, Solana, Ethereum, I think the mass adoption is coming. And the way we have been using trust in banks, which all of have seen, and I think Cap also spoke about usage of crypto directly in consumer apps. I think when the mass adoption will come, people start using crypto directly. know and move away from banks. I think that's the trend in the next 5 years.
Right, we're gonna open it up. So obviously, without a mic, you've got to raise your voice a little, and I apologise for that. But if you put your arms up and you want a question, then we will start to pick a few of you out.
Shall I use the mic as a pointer?
You can do that'd be nice. I had it, it's here. Equally remember this is that these people are doing this for love. So we've got loads of wonderful volunteers. They're
Don't
doing
grill
this-
them, don't ask them difficult questions.
They're
Be
not
nice.
getting paid for tonight, so this is free consulting on your part. So if you do get a question, lucky you.
Okay. And we're going to go in the front row because I'm super lazy. First go. Right, ready? Okay. You don't need the mic. I'm just kind of pointing at you.
Right, really great talk. Touching on the subject of the expansion of the ecosystem. We all know funding is a nightmare to get for any business, and it's also the case in emerging tech. So where do you think is the best places for people who want to build to go to? Will it just be Solana? Will it be Bitcoin? Outside of that, you touched on the VC. You know, what do you think is the best way for people to get funding to build their
I'll
project?
just jump in and then let you because I feel like that's a question for you. I think it depends what you're trying to build. I think it all starts from the question of what's your vision, what's the vision of the product, what's the direction that you want to take, and then you'll choose the chain that makes the most sense for you based on those sort of high-level questions. And then it's going down the rabbit hole of how can you get grants, access to funding, support, network groups, etc. within those chains. Obviously, you can think of expanding to multiple chains as well, but I think from what I've seen, a good go-to-market strategy is typically choose a chain, choose a community, start from there, and then expand. Not always, but it's what typically makes most sense for creative initiative.
And I'm assuming, are you talking about startups?
Yes, startups, of course, yeah.
Because like angel investment, I think is one place to really begin, and this idea of syndicates as well.
Yeah, but angels, are they do they have the knowledge around Web3? Because obviously this is one of the reasons we're having this conversation. So there's lots of angel investors who'd be like, Web3 what? Blockchain what? So.
But on the other side, there's also a ton of angel investors in the Web3.
Okay.
Like what propped up all the NFT market was that it's people who have liquidity on chain who are like, I want to put it somewhere.
Right.
And there's a lot of people in the industry that want to be able to back startups that are coming through. There's tons of different like syndicates that is like one to be looking at. There's a really cool platform called Echo, the XYZ, that's about to launch, which is just enabling anybody to make their own syndicate. And the reason why I say angels to begin with is because as an early stage startup, one of your first goals is how do I get 5 users? How do I get 5 people to use it? Then work with them, get the feedback on it, and then iterate your product. So cool, now these 5 people love it. Now you have the question of, cool, how do I start to expand? When you onboard a company, so say you onboard ABC who invest 500K, you now are relying on that one company in order to be able to get you the network effects, to get you out there. But say I did that 500K for 1,000 investors, 1,000 angels. Now I have 1,000 people out there in the world who have skin in the game for what we're building, and they're going to then, when they speak to a random friend, like, that's a great idea, you should go speak to them. You know, you then activate out a load more people, and when you're at those early stages, that matters a lot. When you then go in from your angel then to like a proper pre-seed seed round, where you're raising anywhere from 500 to 1.5 to a couple million, that's when you need that big venture fund really to be able to come in and be a signal. Not necessarily because of their funding, but because their name and their reputation then allow you to then grow out there. So when you're looking at the right start, where do I get my funding? I think the angels are a really cool place to begin. But then also be thinking about who are those target venture capitalists, target funds that I want to be able to bring in because they have the reputation in the ecosystem or they have those key connections that they want, and understand where they are, who are the people in that, and like target them, you know, like, okay, cool, I need to speak to Jeff, or I need to speak to Megan, and I need to be able to then like figure out where they are so I can then tap into them, or who I know, who knows them, or who I know who knows, to then be able to actually get that warm introduction to them. And when you're approaching, like even like angels and stuff like this, don't necessarily always lead with the investment, lead with feedback. Saying, hey, I'm building in this, I saw you invest into these guys, I would love to hear your feedback on what you think about where we're building. And then use these then ways to then start building up that roster of interest and start establishing that cap table. And that's something that's like neutral across all ecosystems. All ecosystem has angels, all ecosystem has venture funds. And then there's other ones like family offices that you can tap into, but they're a lot smaller, usually for bigger rounds. But then you then have these initial ways to then start going out. The cool thing with Web3 as well is you also don't need to like necessarily go to like private investors. You can also go to the community. So you can be able to go on many different community launchpad platforms where you can raise around like just traditional crowdfunding. But obviously in Web3, you can do that a bit more decentralized, a bit more easy access for everyone to be able to jump in. And again, that's similar to the angel kind of side, but probably lower ticket. So they're probably investing in rather than like 5, 10, 1 grand, they're investing in 100, 200.
I kind of think we found the next panel topic. Okay, we'll. You've got your hand up.
I got 2 questions.
Well, we've only got time for one, so pick wisely.
Do your best one, your best one, do your best one.
I have your panel, by the way, guys. First question, how do we classify what mass adoption is? And second question, where do we think the next 100 million users from crypto is coming from?
I think mass adoption is already here. I'm sorry, there's, like I said, 2.5 billion inflows plus. Bitcoin itself is over $2 trillion asset group. Altcoins, 1.3 trillion. I'm less concerned about onboarding the next billion or million users, and I hate that phrase. I'm more concerned about let's onboard the next trillion in assets, and I think we're doing that now with ETFs and broadening Ethereum and Bitcoin into broader financial markets.
I mean, it's a good point because technically we have reached probably hundreds of millions of users through ETFs, right? Pensions invest in ETFs, and whoever has a pension here, don't really want to anymore, but we are indirectly, I guess me a little bit as well, indirectly touching on these assets. So indirectly, maybe we have reached mass adoption. I'd like it personally to be, I speak to my mum, tell her about crypto, where I'm working, and she doesn't freak out. I think just that, she doesn't have to get into it, it's okay. Just the negativity is what I'd like to get rid of.
So I think my mom asked a few years back, who is the CEO of Bitcoin?
My granny one time told her hairdresser I'm the CEO of Bitcoin.
And she probably believe you.
We will never know.
There's a film coming out. Is it today? Tomorrow. Yeah, where apparently they're revealing who Satoshi is. On HBO, I think.
Can we not announce it here tonight?
Yeah. Well,
it's me.
We got time for one more. The guy with the beanie on. You must be brilliant.
I'd like to hear very much what each of you thinks of a DAO/network state in a commercial product sense.
Oh, that was a tough question.
Nothing like hit us in the sidewinder. Why don't you try it? You want to try a second question just in case?
What do you mean by commercial sense?
Yeah.
Well, we understand the benefit in transactions and private identity. I'm just wondering, generally like that. What would you see as a DAO/network state as a commercial product?
I think one of the big ones is group investing. So a big thing part of like the network state is I'm going to be able to buy a building, and we're all going to move in that building together, and we all had to pass some sort of criteria in order to be able to invest, so like all devs. Now there's all devs in this one building. That now increases the value of that building. Because like a commercial property is valued by the tenant that's in it. So if you have like a route on the high road, you get a mom and pop coffee shop in there, and it's valued less than if you got Starbucks in there. And I think you would see similar things start to happen with these like network states, where like so the commercial side comes in as cool, we're going to dramatically increase the value of this building by getting the certain type of people into that building. And then now, if I'm a marketer for my SDK, I'm going to want to be at the base of that building because I know there's a bunch of devs in there. And you can take that as long tail as you want, and there's many different sides to it as well. But I'd say that's one small aspect to look at. It's like commercial, but it is like this idea about how was we as a group able to disrupt the little system or play the game of that system in a way that now enables us all to win rather than just a single person doing it and winning.
We're gonna have to wrap up. Before we do, we're gonna try and do something a little bit different. We're gonna actually come over here, turn round, and we're gonna get a photo of all of you and the panel in. Now squeeze in if you can, please. If you don't want, you can turn it. You can. Yes, we're gonna turn around. Don't worry. You stay where you are.
This is the part where I escape into the door.
The rest we're gonna do yourself, because otherwise you're just gonna disappear. If you don't want to be in a photo, please just turn around or dance or do whatever you need to do.
Guys, you look lovely. Everyone looks amazing.
Brilliant.
Right, smile, everyone.
Everyone happy? That's brilliant.
Just shout Web3.
Web3, everybody.
Yay!
Thanks, team. Thanks very much.
Let's give the panel a round of applause, please.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, after the panel, after the Q&A, it is customary a Crypto Monday for you all to run to the bar. Do not do that. We have two things to do. I know none of you are Irish. Don't run directly to the bar. Calm down. We have two things we need to do. Number one is we need to introduce my favorite person that I have met tonight. She is one of the sponsors. She is from Shine. Make some noise in this room if you were not born in the United Kingdom. Make some noise. Woo! Neither was she and neither was I. She's Indian Irish. We have so much in common. Please give it up for Jules from Shine. Woo!
Hi everyone.
People at the back, pay attention or I will hit you violently.
First of all, thank you to all the people that I asked to during the entire thing. I was doing that for the panel, so thank you for that. But just wanted to say 2 years after David introduced me to Crypto Mondays Online, we're 2 years in, and it's been amazing to kind of get into the Web3 community, be part of what Caitlin and the team have built, and amazing what they've done as a not-for-profit organization. And it's been really interesting for me as mainly a Web2 person to come into this space and learn about Web3, meet so many of the founders. We work with at Shine lots of founders and businesses who are trying to get their brand and their marketing and their messages out. And it's been interesting for me, but obviously hearing lots of the speakers tonight and reflecting back on kind of my Web2 journey, which was nearly 20 years at Visa. And when I think about some of the things that you talked about before, what are the barriers to adoption? You talked about education, skepticism, and many other things that are there. And when I think about how complex, and so many of us know there's lots of complex things going on in Web3. When I think back to, I was in my 20s and we were just trying to get people to pay online at Visa. And it was so hard, and oh my God, moving from chip and PIN to doing contactless payments. People didn't want to do chip and PIN for small value payments. We needed to do contactless. It was so tough, and it required 3 key things that I hope are useful to hear from my nearly 20 years in that space, being part of that payment evolution for things that are every day today, shopping online, paying with your contactless cards, being on the tube or on the underground. Was that one is that you really need to be solving a problem that's going to make a difference. You're solving for a real problem that's going to make a difference for your customer, whether it's a business or it's a consumer. The other one is that it really needs to be a frictionless experience. That can take years, as we know, to kind of get there. And the third one is phenomenal collaboration. Seeing that at Visa, when I just saw everyone, what we had to do with the banks, the retailers, across all the different cultures of how they perceive money and payment, it was massive, let alone collaboration with competitors, because if you didn't have that, you weren't going to have interoperability. So I think, there were huge points there for me over all that time learning, and I see all these amazing businesses doing so much in Web3, and I hope those 3 points are helpful. At Shine, we help people power brands, working with founders and businesses to do that. We really believe that with that and putting people at the heart of innovation, brands can drive change, and that's a really powerful thing. So that's all I wanted to say about Shine. One more thing to say.
Go on, go off you go.
Speaking of brands that drive powerful change, another shout out to the Crypto Mondays London team. We've been going for over 6 years now. They've driven extremely powerful change, as we can see here today, and all the thousands of members in the community. And so one of the things that helps them, as we've heard Caitlin and many other team members say, they're a not-for-profit organization. To help them move forward, your feedback, your input helps them get sponsor money, work with partners. If we don't have feedback from you guys, they're not going to be able to put on events like this. And it also helps them make better events. So I know I have asked probably 5 times in the last year, but I'm going to ask everyone in the room to please scan that QR code and please, please, please fill out that survey.
If I don't see you scanning it, I'm going to come over with the microphone. Scan it. Scan it. I see people not scanning. Scan. Scan, scan, scan. Scan like you're in a little supermarket. Like your life depends on it.
Thank you. No, thank you so much, and thank you for Crypto Mondays on it too.
Thank you.
Don't move alcoholics near the bar. We're going to do a raffle. We're going to do a raffle. We're going to pick out 5 tickets. And these 5 people get themselves and a +1 to Zebu Live, which is right here.
It's Thursday and Friday. Does anyone not have a ticket yet? This is what I was wondering. Who has a ticket? Who's coming?
Wow, you guys are really into this.
Well, this one is Jeremy's ticket, so. But
You
yeah,
can give it to a friend and it can be a +1.
Yeah.
I'm sensing a lot of you in the room are single. I think this would work in your favor. This could be a magic moment.
So we're giving away 5, 10 tickets to 5 people. So you'll get to choose who you go with, okay? So, do I do it now? Yeah, yeah. Okay, you've got your tickets out?
Yeah. Does everyone have their tickets out?
Woo! Okay.
Oh, this is exciting.
And we'll need you to come over here to write their emails down. Okay, 215, 215.
215. 215. Lovely man with a lovely hair.
We have 230. Have we shuffled?
Should we shuffle them a bit more so they're not all too long?
230.
Who's 230? Who is it?
Okay.
Lovely man in the white t-shirt.
Drop your email. Okay, another one.
Okay.
205.
205.
Okay, great.
Lovely man here.
191.
191. 191. They're in the toilet.
No.
They're doing a big pee.
Okay, so this is
191.
last chance.
They forfeited. Second. That's the worst pee of their life.
226.
226.
Yes, no? Yeah?
Who is it?
No? Okay,
No.
next. Okay,
No,
let's
next.
go for it.
This is not working.
158.
158.
Oh, it's mine now.
Oh, no. Yes, no? Oh, okay.
I know that you're yelling because you're near the number. Huh?
Which one?
158.
Okay.
158. Perfect. Okay. There. Put your email address and your phone number.
210? Did we not say? No. Okay, great.
210. Number there.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much, guys. See you at Zebu.
You guys, please stay around.